This is Sarah Noble from IndependenceSentinel.com, and I wanted to wish everyone a happy Independence Day weekend. And the reason I've decided to do this today, after saying I was too shy to be out in public, is because I'm still recovering from back surgery. I can't go to a barbecue, I can't watch the fireworks, so I'm here talking to you. I hope you have better things to do than listen to me. But I did want to mention something about the American Revolution today, because it is a very special occasion and it's being forgotten. We have a lot of students getting out of school not knowing who we even fought with or why or what the purpose of it was, and that's a serious problem. I guess I must sound hyperbolic a lot of times because I keep talking about a revolution, like Bernie Sanders talks about a revolution, but there is one going on. We have a political, social, and cultural revolution going on right now. Bernie Sanders is probably the opposite of the kind of revolution I am fighting. Barack Obama, when he talks about fundamental transformation, he's talking about fundamentally transforming us into a socialist nation of some type. I'm not so sure it's going to be a European socialist nation. When he was first elected, Al Sharpton said everybody knew what he was talking about. He was talking about socialism. And I'm not so sure people did know that, and I'm not so sure they understand what it is. We basically fought that in the 1700s because a monarchy isn't all that different. Statism is statism. The one person I think we should honor today more than any is the father of the American Revolution, Thomas Paine. His document, his pamphlet, Common Sense, launched the revolution. Without this, there would be no United States like we know it today. There would be no George Washington's army, in all likelihood. Thomas Paine had a difficult life. He was pretty much immersed in the French Revolution, which later became known as the Terror. And he devoted his life to freedom and individual rights. When he became involved with Ben Franklin and came to this country and started writing, he was able to do the one thing no one else would have been able to do. At that time, people weren't united to fight the British. They were thinking more along the lines of some kind of reconciliation with the British. But what he did, he managed to take all the divergent forces in this country and unite them for the one cause of freedom. He was dedicated to many things that today we would call liberal. He wasn't that well educated, but what he wasn't educated in, he had the intelligence. He was brilliant, and he had a way with words. He didn't use the eloquent language of Virgil like people were used to. He was said to have used more mundane type of language, but he reached the masses with it. And his pamphlet, Common Sense, was the second most popular pamphlet ever printed in the United States. The only one that superseded it, unfortunately, was the Communist Manifesto. In the first few months, 120,000 of those pamphlets were gone. Within the first year, they think about 500,000. I don't think a woman can be ahead of their time. I think you can be a man or a woman of your time. And you can be a leader, and you can change the direction of a nation, and hopefully not towards statism, but towards more freedom and higher principles. And he did that. He believed in ending animal cruelty. He believed in justice for women. He wanted to make divorce laws more lenient. He wanted to eradicate slavery. And he formed the first American anti-slavery society in this country. When he was needed, he had the words. When George Washington's army was struggling to survive and it looked like all was lost, he came up with the crisis papers. And it was so brilliant, and it was so powerful that George Washington read it to the soldiers, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's quite powerful. In late 1776, Paine published the American Crisis pamphlet. To inspire the Americans in their battles against the British Army, he juxtaposed the conflict between the good American devoted to civic virtue and the selfish provincial man. Not too much has changed since then. To inspire his soldiers, General George Washington had the American Crisis, first crisis pamphlet, read aloud to them, and it begins. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. This was a man who believed in some higher principle, higher than himself. And I just want to read something in the beginning because it's really a booklet on Thomas Paine. It's really sad in a way because he had a life of, he alienated people at that time. If you were a Christian who didn't believe Jesus Christ was divinity, you got in trouble, and he didn't. He believed in God, but he didn't believe in that. He had problems with George Washington, so he lost that support. So he died a rather anonymous death, this great man. But it wasn't all in vain. Just listen for the last line and you'll know why. Bystanders passed on a road would hardly have noticed. The scene was so ordinary. Barely more than a dozen mourners joined the procession journeying from Greenwich Village to New Rochelle on June 9, 1809, to bury Thomas Paine and honor his memory. Paine, English by birth, died at 72, unheralded and quite nearly forgotten in his adopted land, a peculiar and poignant fate for a man who had been his century's most notorious revolutionary. On the grounds of Paine's modest farm, a gift from the state of New York in gratitude for his service during the American Revolution, the small group gathered around the gravesite. There stood Madame Bonneville, who tended Paine during his last illness, her two sons, a few friends, a group of Irishmen attending to honor Paine's opposition to English domination of their homeland, and two free blacks wishing to pay their respects to one who had been among the first to editorialize against slavery. This was in the 1700s. As the mahogany coffin was lowered into the ground, Madame Bonneville instructed her son Benjamin to stand with her by Paine's grave while she offered the simple benediction, "Oh, Mr. Paine, my son stands here as testimony to the gratitude of America and I for France." Paine, the intellectual firebrand at the center of disquiet and revolution in England, America, and France, once provided a friend with his own testimonial, and this is what you need to hear, writing that having a hand in two historic revolutions was to enjoy a life lived to some purpose. We must believe in things and we must live our life to a higher purpose if we're really going to find the type of fulfillment that we hope to find. And he did. It was really, his life was difficult. He lost a wife, a child. When he met Ben Franklin, who helped him get into the United States and work for the Pennsylvania Press, I think it was. And that's when he began to write his own works. He was able to publish his own works. And from really poverty and knowing who he was, he became one of the most famous men of his time. He achieved great things. When he died, 10 years after his death, a writer who had only disdain for him, named William Cobbett, dug up his bones and took them back to England. He had changed his mind about Paine and decided he did admire him. So I guess that's why he took his bones, though I don't understand why somebody would do that. His bones are missing. We don't know where they are today. They might be buried at the Cobbett estate, or they could have been lost at sea. They could have been sold off. Nobody really knows. So we can't even go and say a prayer. This is the line I want to read to you. The sun never shone on a cause of greater worth. 'Tis not the affair of a city, a county, a province, or a kingdom, but of a continent, of at least 1/8 part of the habitable globe. 'Tis not the concern of a day, a year, or an age, Posterity are virtually involved in the contest and will be more or less affected even to the end of time by the proceedings now. Now is the seed time of continental union, faith, and honor. The least fracture now will be like a name engraved at the point of a pin on the tender rind of a young oak. The wound will enlarge that tree, and posterity read it in full-grown characters. We are going through a revolution right now, and we must unite together. We are all one people. Our country is exceptional. And the reason we're exceptional isn't because we're white, black, tall, short, Christian, non-Christian, atheist. None of that is the reason why, really. The reason why is because we believe in a cause greater than ourselves. We believe in freedom in a way no other country has ever had the opportunity to experience. And it allows us to have opportunity to be the best people that we can be. We are the people who fought for freedom throughout the world, and we've made a lot of mistakes. But we were the people that others could count on. And you now see a world where we're not there. And we're losing. Right now, the radical Islamists are the neo-Nazis. They are the Nazis of their day. And we're letting them roam to kill, to destroy, rape, pillage, terrible things to people. When you consider this, will you join up for the revolution to save America? To save the America that so many people came here for? Or are you going to be the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot? You have to make a choice because it's one or the other. We're there. This is it. You must make a choice, and you must stand up for what you believe in. Freedom is worth everything.